insight, we have Associated Press White House reporter Catherine Lucey with us today. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Okay, there's a lot to break down. I want to get your biggest takeaway from this week, and of course, starting with the shakeup in the communications office.
Well, I think the thing that we have to remember here, and will be really interesting to watch going forward, we've seen these changes. Sean Spicer's out. We have a new communications director. Sarah Sanders has been promoted. But at the end of the day, this president really is the messenger-in-chief or the communicator-in-chief.
We heard that from
he really is.
What they asked, I think it was, and I'm not sure which reporter asked, who are you reporting to? Is it Reince Priebus? And he had said that he really reports directly to the president. But that's sort of how the president works.
That's how he works. I mean, he is very concerned about the messaging. He's very concerned about how they're being portrayed on television, how they're being portrayed in the media. And he also obviously wants to directly message a lot himself, which has pros and cons. He likes to use Twitter, as we saw today. He tweeted a lot. He likes to speak to people directly. But we're going to see now with a new team in place, does that make any differences in how they sort of shape the message? Because one thing they've struggled with is sort of staying on message.
Well, we saw the optics yesterday. There was quite a few times when Anthony's style and he was calm, it mirrored what we've seen from the president. Am I right?
Yeah, no, he gave a very smooth performance yesterday. He seemed to be trying to sort of be a little lighter. He tried to engage with reporters, and I think the president obviously liked the way that he has been performing on television. I think that was part of the reason the president was really interested in having him join the team.
There's been other things that have happened this week. We saw a shakeup within the legal team, the president's legal team. We also had a pretty alarming report from the New York Times that the president was fairly critical of his own attorney general. What's your takeaway from both of those stories? Did either of those stories surprise you?
Well, with the New York Times reporting and the president's interview, I think one of the things, to the point that the president likes to push his own message, he does typically share how he's feeling about things, be it in interviews or be it on Twitter. And so eventually you often learn from him how he's feeling. And so the frustrations over the news coverage about Russia, the frustrations with the Attorney General, I think are things that he had been sharing privately for some time. So this is sort of this spilling out more publicly. What it means going forward in terms of for now, Jeff Sessions is saying that he's staying.
Yeah, he's given no indication.
He's given no indication.
His tone hasn't changed.
No. He's still out there doing things.
He's still very, very busy. But I'm curious as to, and if you have any insight covering the White House, how that message reverberated, not just within the White House and his staff, but also with the Attorney General and his staff.
Well,
from the outside, it looked like nothing really had changed.
Well, I mean, obviously the story was very critical, and so he now has to figure out how to move forward. And there were questions, both when he appeared and when the press office appeared the next day about does he still, does Sessions still enjoy the confidence of the president? Does the president still support him? For now, no one is saying otherwise. So I think we're going to have to sort of wait and see if that does shift over time. I mean, the president also says critical things about a lot of people who work for him, and then they stay on. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to happen in the short term.
And I want to get, before we go, I just want to touch on the shakeup or the changes that went within the legal team. Obviously, we saw his chief counsel resign, although he'll still be advising. And then we saw the spokesperson also resign.
Yeah, there's been some changes in the team.
I'm curious, are we going to be seeing that? Does the president, is his style sort of keeping things fresh, keeping things moving? I mean, there was a lot of shakeup in two major aspects of the president's administration.
They are changed, and I don't know that these were all, long planned. Some of this stuff came about quite quickly. I think with the legal team, the other thing we have to think about is just that these investigations are intensifying. We're looking ahead to a week where we could, learn a lot more. There's expected testimony, albeit privately, but testimony from key players. And so the president and folks, being pulled into that investigation are increasingly concerned about their legal strategies. So I think the idea that more, lawyers are going to come in or, more players are going to come into that is certainly possible.
Okay. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We covered a lot. There's a lot that went on this week, and I assume we'll be having
a lot more every week.
A lot more. Yeah, Catherine, thank you so much. Appreciate it.